I'm going to move us on to the next question, which is kind of related in lots of ways. So it's kind of about what do we want students to be, what knowledge, what understanding, what skills do we want students to have when they arrive at this? So in an absolute blue sky world, if you could make a change to economics lower down, not to economics, but you can make a change to the education lower down your school or into your feeder schools, so key stage 3, key stage 4, what would that be? Would that be having more students do GCSE economics? Would it be that students arrive with better literacy skills? Would it be that students have a better understanding of current affairs? Would it be that they will have to do a news quiz once a week, and that became part of the kind of PSHE scheme? Would it be that they just have a better understanding of what economics is, that they've had some exposure to it? Would it be that they have better history, perhaps? What is it that students are perhaps missing when they come at A level? I'll go first, just because I know that Gavin normally types, but for me, it would be that lots of students kind of don't have the contextual background. They don't know enough about the world around them, and that's quite difficult to fill in. And I wonder whether that's perhaps one of the reasons why A-star grades in economics go predominantly to independent schools, because they've been exposed to more discussions over the dinner table or things like that, knowing that mortgages can be fixed or variable, knowing that that there's all these differences and how different things react in society, to have an idea of how like the train systems work, which a lot of that comes from lots of little bits of reading or awareness or exposure over time. And because in economics, more than any other subject, I think there is this, I've said it before, there's a curriculum behind the curriculum. In order to do well, if you learn everything on the economics spec, I don't think you could get an A-star, because I think you still need to bring in all this contextual knowledge, and it's the contextual knowledge that people, particularly from more disadvantaged backgrounds, might not get, because they might not have the exposure, they might not have the as I say, the discussions. If your parents have never owned a house, you might never have had a conversation about fixed versus variable mortgages. If you've always rented. Now, that's not to say that's not useful, because those students might equally have had perhaps more exposure to having a part-time job and those sorts of things. But for me, it would be making sure that our students arrive at sixth form with the same sort of contextual knowledge that a lot of our independent school students arrive with. Having said that, I've worked in independent schools where students, goes completely over the head, but it would be that kind of background stuff. I don't know how to achieve that other than maybe having like a news lesson or a current affairs lesson, or kind of just discussions about that kind of thing. But I don't know where that would fit within the curriculum. That would be my ideal if I had a chance to kind of to affect the education of students coming up, to prepare them for economics. I think that's what would make the biggest difference for me. What do other people think? So Gavin, you do GCSE. Andrew, you're not convinced about GCSE?
Well, can I respond to that by turning that to Sarah, maybe? Because I was interested in, Sarah, in the Discover Economics stuff, about what there was a point you said about wanting everyone to do it and it'd be lower down the schools and stuff. What would your vision be of what that could possibly look like? Like what would younger students do within economics? Because would they do all the sort of technical, do some diagrams and things, or it sounds like you'd be doing, these are sort of bigger issues. So I think that fits with what Isabel was saying about what do we really think the subject is, I suppose, at a younger level, that engages people but also has some sort of rigor. It isn't, because I'm not sure you can achieve much with sort of like a news lesson or something. I don't think there's sort of that much buy-in. It's really difficult to do that sort of stuff, isn't it? So what Sarah, what do you think young person's economics might actually sort of look like?
I guess I would. I think at a basic level, you'd want people to have some kind of, economic literacy as opposed to financial literacy. So the government is, as I understand it, sort of wanting people to have a basic level of financial literacy, a basic sort of understanding of citizenship, and so having just some sense of, basic economic concepts, I guess, so that people feel empowered to sort of understand what they're about. Whether that extends to GCSE, I think it could. A lot of economics seems to be sort of put into geography. So perhaps some of the economics that's currently in geography could be brought out of geography and made to be made to sort of stand on its own. So I haven't thought about a curriculum for GCSE. I mean, I think at a basic level, I would like people to, sort of have a basic understanding of sort of key concepts, whether that's, I think understanding key concepts in the macroeconomy so that people don't feel that, discussions about economics are sort of alien to them, which sort of seems to be the main sense that people get. And then, I think we could sort of pin down, sort of 10 key concepts in economics, which you could sort of try and teach, opportunity cost or, trade-offs or margins versus averages. I mean, there's sort of some fundamental elements which I think would come across. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I haven't sort of spent a long time thinking about it. But, it is, they do it in the US and in Australia. In lots of states in the US, economics is, on the, it's a requirement in every school. And so, I think that would be a nice thing to have in the UK too. Although I do understand that, PHSE is already completely overloaded. But I did think it was a bit of a missed opportunity that the E is basically financial literacy, not economics literacy. And I think there is something distinct called, in economics literacy that I think would be nice to try and get across.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? So, I mean, part of this comes down to this weird skills, domain, knowledge kind of debate that goes on in education. But I often see that economics is a way of looking at the world and a way of kind of analysing the world around us, as well as much as it is its subject matter. And I think I would find it really difficult to either to teach it and get across the subject matter while still kind of to younger students, while still kind of being loyal to the subject matter. And I think that's quite difficult. And I'm not, what do you feel, do you feel that there's a kind of an advantage of one over the other? Is it the kind of the way, the use of the economist toolbox? Is it the way we look at stuff and kind of taking out all the noise and just looking at the basics and looking how things change? Or is it the subject matter? Because I think the subject matter sort of stuff, the way, the questions we tackle, they're the really exciting bits that I think perhaps encourage participation. But the tools that we use,
the economic lens,
are a bit more, perhaps a bit more dull, but are perhaps more foundational and kind of show what economics is. I think it's a tricky one. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think, if you look at the way universities are now trying to teach economics, I think we're trying to put the subject matter first and then show how economics tools can be used to think about those topics. So I think you have to put, we can't just sort of use supply and demand diagrams in abstract, because that doesn't work, I don't think. So it was subjects first and then how economics sort of approaches them. But I think, I think at a very basic level, I think it's this, this idea, we need to know what a savings account is, but we also need to think about economic growth and the trade-off between growth and other things that we care about, and think about governments and the choices that they make, and why a government is not like a household, because governments, some pretty basic economic concepts which I think almost everyone needs in order to be able to be an effective citizen.
And a lot of our journalists need as well in some cases.
Well, exactly, yeah. I don't know, but maybe we need to start articulating it more. But I was thinking, the basic concepts, and perhaps an insight into how economists think about it. But it has to be about the issues, because otherwise we'll never get over the problem that it's sort of seen as incredibly dull.
Andrew, do you have anything else?
Well, I also wanted to pick up on the comment, which I agree with, essentially about geography. And I'm starting to think that geography is actually a somewhat pernicious subject that messes everything up. Leave them to their rocks, and we'll take back the economics and do it properly. Because I'm not entirely sure they sort of, well, it's a particular sort of viewpoint, isn't it? And it's quite. Not that this is bad in itself, but it's you could make the accusation that geography is a more leftist viewpoint about the economics bits. They certainly sort of, I get that impression from the geography students, and it doesn't seem to be quite as holistic as hopefully a broad economics curriculum might be. So that's where those issues are, isn't it? That's where the students in, say, year 9 are encountering. That's where year 9 are encountering some of these big issues of globalization and climate change from an economic perspective and so on. So Yeah, let's go and take the economics back from them and do it.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think so. I mean, geography doesn't have the coherent framework. I mean, it sort of doesn't have, as you said, I mean, the nice thing about economics, it's both. It sort of tackles these big problems, but it also allows you to think about them coherently, or at least sort of,
yeah, that's my view. Certainly, I'd agree with that statement personally.
But costs and benefits.
Yeah. Gavin gets kind of has, I guess, you have some exposure to year 7, 8, and 9 by having cross-curricular days, biscuit day, which sounds great, learning about life, and newspaper day. So you offer up your department to do something and squeeze economics in. You do like a role play linked to inequality, and then look at branding and advertising, a bit of business stuff. Do other teachers get chances like this hit year 7 to 19, or do you think that your school would let you, if you wanted to offer up, hey, I'll take all the kids on a cross-curricular day, would you want to do that as teachers? Would your schools let you, and what would be the kind of challenges with that? So Cecilia runs Tycoon for Key Stage 3 to Key Stage 5, but again, that's more of a focus on business than economics, and how and is that then kind of, is the fact that business and economics are often in the same department or have the same members of staff, does that then kind of almost pollute what economics is? Is there some kind of like merging together, that people just see that business and economics are the same because they're often in the same department at school, and they're the same staff? Any thoughts on kind of having exposure to year 7 to 9 and any of those issues? Oh, hang on, someone's here. So I've been saying that it's so exposed, like it is a way in to get some exposure, and doing a whole school or upper lower school assembly. So those maybe those short kind of activities and short videos, something that we can use for those opportunities, so that for the very little chance that we get to be able to pull that in. I think the other issue with perhaps some of the stuff for our A-level students is that we are really, really short on time. Time is a big issue for a lot of for the A-level teachers. More was put into the curriculum, and often our hours are kind of slimmed down each year as they try to kind of save on staffing costs. So I think that the time is an issue there as well. So perhaps if we can kind of meet the aims that we're already trying to do, so perhaps if there's resources that, we all need to teach inequality, but if there's resources that can kind of kill two birds with one stone, that might be useful as well there.